So, Joe, how do you think Queensland is coping without you?
Well, of course, things change, many things go, and since Mr. Goss scraped through with 99% of the vote, we only go one by a nose. Well, many things have changed.
His was no ordinary election win. Wayne Goss led Labor out of a 32-year wilderness.
This, December the 2nd, 1989, is the end of the Bjelke-Petersen era.
Tributes are flowing from both sides of politics for Wayne Goss, with the sad news the former Premier has died. In 1989, Goss led Labor back into power after 3 decades in the wilderness. He put the cleaners through crooked police and a corrupt regime, and is credited by many as the father of the Queensland we know today. He was 63.
The man destined to be one of Queensland's most popular premiers spent his childhood in one of Brisbane's poorest suburbs, Inala. His working-class background became a major influence throughout his life. As a solicitor with Aboriginal and legal aid, he fought for the disadvantaged with determination and dedication. Wayne Goss was lured to politics in 1983, winning the seat of Salisbury in Brisbane South. At the age of 32, he made an immediate impact on the Queensland Parliament, moving straight onto the opposition frontbenches, making a name for himself targeting National Party high-profilers like Russ Hinds. But it was the top job he had in his sights, making an unsuccessful move for the Labor leadership in 1987. Just months later, he tried again, this time wresting power from Nev Warburton. It was a turbulent time in Queensland as the impact of the Fitzgerald inquiry into police corruption played out.
Goss set about undoing Joe's worst, the police special branch that spied on protesters, the rigged electoral system called the gerrymander that kept Joe in power. He hired a kid called Kevin Rudd, who answered a newspaper ad as his chief of staff, and set about cementing the Fitzgerald reforms. It earned him his place in history and respect on all sides of politics.
His term as Premier saw marked change in Queensland, with his fight against corruption never ending. Trade and economic development were also priorities. Known as Mr 70%, at one time he was the most popular leader in the country. Labor just survived the 1995 election, only to lose power 8 months later at the hands of independent Liz Cunningham. On the backbench, Wayne Goss was far from idle, completing a master's in business before deciding to make a move to the federal arena, setting the seat of Oxley and controversial independent Pauline Hanson in his sights.
I've done most of the things I wanted to do in state politics, but I think it's also important to know when to move on.
It was a campaign he never fought. Then 46, he was diagnosed with a brain tumour and withdrew from the campaign. His illness came as a shock to friends. He was extremely fit, running or cycling every day. He made a good recovery, but decided to retire from politics, instead taking up a position as managing partner at a Brisbane accounting firm.
I still am very interested in politics, still follow it very closely, but I've concluded that the price is too high.
In the late 1990s, he took on the job of chairman of the international sporting event, the Goodwill Games, which came to Brisbane in 2001. A year later, he was diagnosed with a second tumour and underwent another successful operation.
I really work on the basis that I will play the cards that I'm dealt, and I focus on moving forward from there.
Wayne Goss will be remembered as the boy from Inala, who became the man who led Labor out of a long political wilderness.
I made a difference. That's what I always wanted to do.
A politician who helped make Queensland a vastly different place.
He returned pride to Queensland, and that was because he was a man of honesty, integrity and decency.
The things he did in the 6 years he was in office were quite significant and have far-reaching implications today in terms of a better Queensland.
There'd been findings of corruption both in politics and at the police service, and Wayne changed that. I mean, he really moved Queensland right into the 20th century.
He was a man of integrity, a man of great intellect, a man of humble beginnings.
Wayne Goss was a great Australian, and he was truly a great Labor man.
Wayne was never one to try to catch a grab on the 6 o'clock news for the hell of it. He was always about achievement.
His wife of 33 years, Rosine, and their children, Ryan and Caitlin, who said, "We mourn the man we love. As Queenslanders, we join so many who are grateful."
Thank you, Queensland. You've been good to me. I hope I've left you a better place.